welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Last few years, I've been featuring each Vijoar Kingstown and getting to know their stories a little bit better. We're on episode 226, and we have 700. So we've come a long way, got a long way to go. As I said, today we're featuring episode 226, but before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. You can subscribe, like, and notify, and you can also contribute by doing Ko-fi, Patreon, and also YouTube has a special super thanks as well that you can do. And on my website, I also have a PayPal button that you can press as well. So thank you to all of you who have supported thus far. Really appreciate you. Let's get started and get to know episode 226. So our fille du roi of episode 226, her name is Marie Pescher, and she is a viewer request. I also have her in my files as one of the grandmothers of a good friend of mine's husband who has very strong French-Canadian roots. So let's get started and find out all about Marie. Well, here we go again. You see that map. That means I don't know where she comes from. I know she's born around 1649. I don't know the names of her parents or which part of France she is from. What we do know is that she sailed on the Prince Maurice and arrived in New France on July 30th, 1671. Well, here we go again, another big map of France, kind of a big question mark. The groom that she selected and who selected her, his name, Jacques Harel, and he was born in 1649. So we know that Jean would come to New France as an engagé, signing a contract. His name can be found in the 1666 census of the household of Jacques Aubuchon, who was a widow, and he is listed as 17 years old and a domestic. In 1667 census, we find him in the same household. He is also working within the farm or at the house. We assume he's a farmhand. And Jacques Aubuchon was a very strong landowner. You can see how many arpents valeurs he had. He had 70, it's about 65 to 67 acres of land. So he obviously needed people to assist him. So no marriage record has been found. And so we believe they were married sometime between 1671 and 1672. So they would start out at Trois-Rivières. Trois-Rivières is only the second settlement of New France. It was named Trois-Rivières because the St. Maurice River has three channels that form at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. Trois-Rivières is French for three rivers. And Trois-Rivières was a very strategic location on the St. Lawrence River, and it helped the new nation of New France grow and prosper. It was also a very important battle in the American Revolution, the Battle of Three Rivers. It was called that because of the American and British influence. Some of you who have ancestors in this area might be surprised at who would qualify for admission to the daughters or sons of the American Revolution. So they finally would settle down in a place called Gentilly, which is now part of Bécancour. So in Gentilly came from many different little places that eventually, around 1671, they finally had this Gentilly that would, that would become, the area, the Seigneurie of Gentilly. Eventually, it would be merged into the bigger place of Bécancour. It was at some point also known as Saint-Edouard de Gentilly. So you have to be on the lookout for all the different names that it might have been named. By 1683, it was Seigneurie des Poissons, and then it became the Seigneurie de Gentilly in 1735. I mean, it goes on and on. So before we belabor that point, I just want to make sure you understand how sometimes those cities that your people came from, your ancestors, have merged over time. Now, you can see on the map where Bécancour is. It's halfway between Trois-Rivières and Quebec. And then we have the Saint-Edouard de Gentilly Church and one of the one of the paths or one of the more picturesque little museums where you can visit and look at the moulins, the mills that were there. So definitely have check out. If this is where your people are from, definitely this is an area for you to explore. The 1681 census is very interesting because we have Jean Harel actually working, being listed with Michel Petit, who's the Sœur de la Parade, the Lord of the Parade, and it's just really fascinating because I've never seen that before. And then directly underneath, we have his wife and children. So we have Marie, we have Michel, Jean, Thérèse, Françoise, François. They have one gun, two goats, and 10 arpents, which is about 7 to 8 acres of land. So very interesting kind of what was going on that Jean Harel would have been listed with another person. So I suspect it was just one of those situations where the census taker was taking the census of everyone. And he happened to be there, and that's how it worked. He would end up having 9 children. Michel would die at 2 years of age. Jean-François would marry Marie-Madeleine Brunet and have 15 children, 7 of whom would make it. Marie-Thérèse would marry Nicolas Bergeron and have 7 children, all of whom would make it. Nicolas' mother was a fille à marier, Marie Métayer, who we have not yet profiled. Françoise would marry 4 times, but would only have children with Pierre Blanchet, 6 children, 2 of whom would survive. Her second husband was François Péléquet, followed by Richard Ossa, and finally at 59, Jacques Rimbaud. François would marry Angélique Bouteille and have 4 children, 3 of whom would make it. Louis would marry Claude-Marie Méville and have 4 children, all of whom would make it. Claude-Marie's mother was Marie-Catherine Bayon, who we profiled in episode 21. Jacqueline would marry Pierre Piet and have 2 children, both of whom would make it. Pierre's mother was fille du roi Marguerite Chemereau, who we have not yet profiled. Jeanne married Jacques Forcier and had 10 children, 7 of whom would make it. Jacques' mother was Marguerite Girard, whom we have not yet profiled as well. Marie Clémence would marry Isaac Pierre Pellissier and have 6 children, all of whom would make it. Jean would die first in 1716 at the age of 67 years. He and Marie would have been married 45 years. Amazing. Marie would pass away in November of 1728. It was said on her death record that she was 100 years old. I don't think so. However, she was most likely almost 80, so she could have looked like 100. She and Jean would leave 91 descendants as of 1729. So these are the resources that I use. I use other things too, but these are the main ones. The Quebec Genealogical E-Society is one that I have actually given a webinar to a couple, I think last year, and they always have webinars. And if you're a member, you can go back on previous ones and look at that. They have lots of information. You can even, I think they've got My Heritage now on tap. So if you're a member, I think it costs something like $50 or $60 a year. It's really inexpensive. Check it out and see if it's something that would help you in your research. So now we find ourselves at the end of episode 226. Marie and Jean were really, they lived a nice long life. They had 93 descendants. They were pioneers in that little town of Gentilly. And I think that they just had a really, shall I call it normal? But sometimes it's just nice, no tragedy, no, nothing kind of, out of the ordinary. They just lived an ordinary life. But in so doing, they produced descendants who are alive today. And so we are so grateful for Marie's sacrifice to come to Canada and to New France. Even though we don't know exactly where she's from, we don't know that much about these two, but we know that they left their mark. And isn't that the best thing? So thank you, Marie, for your contribution, for your bravery, and for inspiring us in our journey of Les Filles du Roi. Thank you to Marie and your husband, Jean. And I also want to say thank you to my patrons and supporters. And I really, really appreciate each and every one of you as this list grows and grows. I am just tickled pink. So thank you very much to all of you who contribute and those of you who are subscribers. You're don't think that just you're just I had a subscriber write me recently and say I'm really sorry that I can't do a donation and I wrote back and said, no, listening to my and being enthusiastic about what I do is a donation. So thank you. You do what you can. So thank you to everyone who has contributed to my journey on this journey of Have Roots Will Travel. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on episode 227. Until then, au revoir.